Libra, listen closely. If you've been feeling off lately, like something in your life looks fine on the surface but doesn't feel right in your chest, this message is for you. Because this isn't random, and you didn't find this video by accident. There's a truth you've been avoiding, not because you're weak, but because you've been trying to keep the peace, even when it costs you. This week, Libra, something becomes impossible to ignore. One realization, one moment of clarity, and suddenly, love, money, direction, they don't feel stuck anymore. Before we go any further, take a breath. If this already feels personal, leave a comment, stay with me, and trust yourself enough to keep listening. Because what's coming next may change how you see everything. Stay with me, Libra. I want you to imagine something for a moment. Not a future fantasy, not a wish, just a quiet image. You standing still, while everything around you keeps moving. Life hasn't collapsed. Nothing is technically wrong, and yet, deep inside, there's this strange emptiness you can't name. You wake up. You do what needs to be done. You show up. You keep the balance. Because that's what you've always done. But lately, it feels like the balance has been costing you more than it's giving back. And I don't say that lightly. Because Libra, you don't complain easily. You don't dramatize your pain. You don't ask for much. You adjust. You soften. You wait. You tell yourself things will make sense soon. That if you just hold steady a little longer, the picture will come together. But here's the truth. Most people never see about you. You feel everything deeply. You just carry it quietly. And when life starts to feel dull, when joy feels muted, when effort stops matching the reward, that's not weakness. That's your soul asking for recalibration. This week, between December 24th and December 30th, you're not being pushed, you're being called to pause, called to notice, called to recognize something you've been feeling for a while now. That subtle sense that parts of your life are slightly out of place. Not broken, just misaligned. You've been giving your energy generously, your time, your patience, your understanding, and yet, something hasn't been giving back in the same way. That's not coincidence, that's a signal. Because when a Libra starts feeling uninspired by their own life, when the spark fades, when things look fine but feel empty, it usually means you've outgrown an old version of yourself. And that's where this moment becomes important. Not dramatic, not loud, just quietly powerful. This isn't about forcing change, it's about awareness. The kind of awareness that doesn't shout, it whispers. It shows up as restlessness, as boredom, as that heavy pause in your chest when you ask yourself, is this really it? You're standing at a soul intersection right now, Libra, a place between what once felt right and what's trying to emerge. And the reason this message found you is because you're ready to look honestly, not at what you wish were true, but at what actually is. There's nothing wrong with you for feeling this way. In fact, it's a sign of growth, because when your inner world begins to shift, the outer world always follows. Slowly at first, then all at once. So, take a breath with me here. Let your shoulders drop, let the noise fade. You don't need answers yet. You don't need a plan. You just need to stay present for what's about to come into focus. Because the next realization doesn't arrive as chaos. It arrives as clarity. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. That's where we're going next. And here's the thing, Libra, when clarity approaches, it doesn't arrive with noise. It doesn't crash in. It doesn't demand attention. It waits. It waits for the exact moment when you're tired of pretending you don't already know. You may feel it first as a pause, a hesitation where there used to be certainty, a moment where something someone says doesn't land the way it used to, or maybe it comes quietly, late at night, when the house is still, when the distractions are gone, and you finally hear your own thoughts again. That's usually when it happens, not as a revelation, but as a sentence that repeats itself in your mind. Soft at first, then impossible to ignore. You don't need proof. You don't need confirmation from anyone else. Something simply becomes clear. This week carries that kind of energy, sharp, clean, cutting through confusion without cruelty. It may come through a conversation you didn't plan to have, words spoken casually, that land deeper than expected, or through information you weren't looking for, but somehow needed. Or it may come from within you, a sudden realization that feels calm, not dramatic, like finally seeing the room for what it is once the lights are on. And I want you to hear this carefully, Clarity doesn't rush you, it steadies you. You may notice that the constant back and forth inside your mind begins to slow. The bargaining, the justifying, the hoping things will change on their own. You start asking different questions now. Not, how do I make this work? But, why am I still carrying this? Not, what if I wait a little longer? But, what am I giving up by staying? That's not coldness, Libra. That's honesty. And honesty, when it finally arrives, has a way of simplifying everything. You may feel a strange mix of relief and discomfort, because part of you already knew the answer. You were just waiting for permission to trust it. This truth isn't here to punish you. It's here to release you. Release you from indecision, from emotional debt, from investing your energy where it quietly drains away. And once you see it clearly, who deserves your time, what no longer aligns, where your effort actually matters, you don't feel anger, you feel lighter, because confusion is exhausting. Clarity, even when it's uncomfortable, gives your nervous system a place to rest. You may notice yourself breathing deeper, standing a little straighter, responding instead of reacting. That's the shift. Not loud, not dramatic, just unmistakable. And what's important here is this. You're not being asked to act immediately. You're being invited to see, to stop editing your reality, to keep the peace, to stop carrying uncertainty as if it's your responsibility. This moment is about alignment, about letting the fog lift so you can finally trust your own perception again. And once that happens, once the truth settles in your chest instead of bouncing around your head, a choice begins to take shape. Quietly, naturally, not forced, not rushed, just inevitable. And that's where the current gently pulls us next. And once the truth settles, Libra, something else begins to stir. Not urgency, not panic, but gravity. You start to feel the weight of choice, not because you're being rushed, but because standing still suddenly feels heavier than moving. You've always been good at seeing both sides. You understand people. You sense their intentions before they speak. You know how to keep things balanced, even when it costs you something, especially when it costs you something. But this moment isn't asking you to weigh everyone else's needs anymore. It's asking you to notice your own. And that can feel unfamiliar. There's a quiet tension here. You might feel it in your chest, or in the way your patience runs out faster than it used to, or in how certain conversations no longer feel neutral. Because deep down, you already know, something has reached its limit. This choice you're standing in front of, it's not dramatic. It doesn't come with ultimatums. It shows up as a question you can't ignore anymore. Who am I continuing this for, and what am I slowly giving up in the process? You may notice it in relationships first, where effort has been one-sided for too long, where you've been understanding but not fully met. You've given time, energy, grace, and now your spirit is asking something very simple. Is this coming back to me? Or you may feel it around your direction in life. Work, purpose, the path you've been walking because it once made sense. But something inside you has shifted, and what used to feel safe now feels small. This isn't restlessness, it's readiness, and that's an important distinction. You're not being asked to abandon everything. You're being asked to stop betraying yourself quietly. You're realizing that hope without honesty becomes a trap, and waiting without alignment becomes a form of self-neglect. This week, Libra, you stop choosing from fantasy, from potential, from what you wish someone or something would become. You begin choosing from reality, from what is present, from what responds to you, from what grows when you invest in it. And that's a powerful shift, because when a Libra chooses with clarity, there's no regret, only relief. You may feel a strange calm as this decision takes shape, not excitement, not fear, just a sense of quiet rightness, like setting something down that was never meant for you to carry this long. And here's the part I want you to hear gently. This choice doesn't make you selfish, it makes you honest. It doesn't mean you failed at patience, it means you learned discernment. You're no longer interested in pouring into spaces that stay empty. You're no longer willing to invest where your value isn't reflected. And that doesn't harden your heart, it frees it. Because when you choose from truth, you create space. Space for connection that meets you, for work that sustains you, for momentum that doesn't require constant justification. And once that space opens, something begins to move toward you, not forced, not chased, just drawn in by the clarity you've claimed. That's the current shifting beneath your feet now. And once that space opens, Libra, you may notice something unexpected. Energy moves toward you. Not because you asked for it, not because you chased it, but because clarity is magnetic. There's a warmth here now, a pull, a quiet intensity that wasn't present before. You feel it in the way someone looks at you, in how conversations don't drift anymore, in how intentions feel clearer, stronger, less hesitant. This connection doesn't tiptoe, it steps forward. You're not guessing how they feel, you're not decoding mixed signals, you're not filling in gaps with hope. There's momentum, a sense of direction, like two paths finally pointing the same way. And that's different for you, because you're used to being the one who waits, the one who gives time, the one who allows space for others to figure themselves out. But this time, you're being met. You may feel it as a spark, a sudden rush of life through your chest, a reminder that attraction doesn't have to be complicated to be real. There's confidence here, not loud, not performative, just steady, grounded, intentional. Someone wants to move forward with you, not someday, not hypothetically, now. And what matters most is how it makes you feel, seen, chosen, desired without having to earn it. You don't have to soften yourself. You don't have to explain your worth. You don't have to negotiate your needs. There's a sense of recognition, as if this person knows what they are holding, and you feel it too. This isn't about being swept away. It's about alignment, the kind that feels energizing, not destabilizing, exciting, but safe. You may notice laughter comes easier, touch feels warmer, time moves faster when you're together. But beneath all of that, there's substance, a desire to build, to move as a unit, to face life side by side instead of circling each other in uncertainty. This connection isn't here to prove anything, it's here to participate. And that's important, Libra, because your heart has always wanted partnership, not pursuit. Connection, not conquest. You're not interested in being won and abandoned. You want consistency, mutual effort, shared momentum. And that's what's forming now, not as a fantasy, but as a living, breathing exchange of energy. You may feel a flicker of fear. That's natural, not because something is wrong, but because something real is approaching, and real things ask us to show up fully. But notice this, you're not shrinking, you're not hesitating, you're opening, and that's a sign of trust returning to your body. This moment doesn't demand perfection. It invites presence, to be here, to respond honestly, to let yourself experience desire without guilt. Because love doesn't have to be heavy to be meaningful. It doesn't have to hurt to be deep. Sometimes it simply moves forward when both people are ready. And Libra, you are ready. As this energy gathers speed, as intention becomes action, as attraction becomes direction, something old loosens its grip. Loneliness, doubt, that quiet belief that you always have to wait your turn. You don't. Not anymore. And as this connection finds its rhythm, another shift begins to take place beneath the surface, one that turns longing into fulfillment. And that's where the story gently carries us next. And as that energy settles, Libra, something else begins to soften inside you. It's subtle at first, almost easy to miss. A quiet release, like setting down a weight you didn't realize you'd been carrying for years. You've known loneliness before. Not the dramatic kind, the quiet kind, the kind that shows up even when people are around. Even when conversations are happening, even when life looks full from the outside. You learned how to function there, how to be graceful, how to give, how to show up with warmth even when you weren't being met in the same way. And for a long time, you told yourself that was just part of being strong. But strength, Libra, was never meant to mean emotional hunger. You've poured into others generously, listened, adjusted, stayed longer than you should have because you believed in potential. And when it didn't come back to you, you didn't make noise about it. You just carried it. That's the energy that's beginning to dissolve now. Not through confrontation, not through bitterness, but through fulfillment. Something is shifting from inside out. You may notice it in the way you wake up, in how your body feels lighter, in how you don't brace yourself the way you used to. Because a wish you barely allowed yourself to name is starting to feel possible again. Not abstract, not someday, but real. To be loved without having to overextend, to be appreciated without proving your worth, to be accompanied, not followed or chased. You're not asking for perfection. You never were. You were asking for reciprocity. And that's what begins to take shape here. This isn't about filling a void. It's about meeting a need that's been patiently waiting. You may feel moments of surprise, like catching yourself smiling without a reason, like realizing you're no longer rehearsing disappointment. There's a warmth replacing the ache, a sense that you don't have to carry everything alone anymore. And what's beautiful about this phase is that it doesn't erase the past, it honors it. Every time you felt unseen, every moment you gave more than you received, every season you stayed hopeful even when it hurt, none of that was wasted. It refined your heart. It taught you discernment. It showed you what you truly value. So now, when fulfillment arrives, you recognize it, not as intensity, not as fantasy, but as peace, the kind that settles into your chest and stays there, the kind that doesn't ask you to change who you are. You may notice how different this feels. No anxiety, no waiting for the other shoe to drop, just a quiet sense of being aligned. And Libra, that's important, because fulfillment doesn't shout, it reassures. It shows up as steadiness, as consistency, as presence. You're not being promised something unreal. You're being allowed to receive something honest. And as this wish begins to take form in your life, something else becomes clear. You're no longer surviving emotionally. You're participating again. And when that happens, your energy changes. Your posture, your voice, your expectations. You stop asking for crumbs. You stop settling for almost. Because you remember what it feels like to be met. And that remembrance doesn't just affect your heart. It begins to touch other areas of your life too. Your confidence, your sense of possibility, your relationship with abundance. That's where the current gently turns next. And when that sense of fulfillment begins to settle, Libra, you may notice something else changing beneath the surface. Your relationship with value, not just emotional value, but tangible value, time, energy, money. You've always understood that nothing meaningful comes without effort. You've never expected shortcuts. You've never relied on luck alone. You show up. You stay consistent. You plant seeds even when the ground feels dry. And there were moments when you wondered if anyone noticed, if the work mattered, if the patience would ever be rewarded. This is where that question begins to answer itself. Because what's moving now isn't random. It's earned. You may feel it as a quiet confidence returning, a sense that your footing is more stable than it was before, that you're no longer scrambling to prove your worth. Something you invested in over time starts to show signs of growth, not overnight, not dramatically, but steadily. You might receive an idea that feels practical and inspired at the same time, something that connects what you know with where the world is going. Or you may cross paths with someone who sees your potential clearly, not as a favor, not as charity, but as opportunity. This isn't about sudden windfalls. It's about alignment between effort and return, and that matters to you. Because you don't want fast money that costs you your peace. You want sustainability, security, a sense that what you're building will last. You may feel drawn to learn something new now, not out of pressure, but curiosity, a skill, a refinement, a deeper understanding of how to position yourself better. This isn't starting over, it's leveling up. And the more you honor your own value, the more the world responds accordingly. You might notice doors opening through conversation, introductions that feel natural, connections that don't require you to perform or overextend. This is the kind of networking that feels human, mutual, respectful. You're not chasing opportunities anymore, you're recognizing them. And there's a calm satisfaction in that, because you know how much work it took to get here, how many times you stayed when it would have been easier to quit, how often you chose integrity over impulse. That discipline is paying dividends now, not just financially, but emotionally. You trust yourself more. Your decisions feel grounded, your goals feel realistic and meaningful. And Libra, that's abundance too. Not the flashy kind, the reliable kind. The kind that lets you exhale, that lets you plan, that lets you imagine a future without constant uncertainty. You're no longer asking, will this ever work out? You're asking, how do I steward what's coming? And that shift in mindset is powerful, because it means you're no longer surviving from week to week. You're building from a place of self-respect. As this energy continues to unfold, you may realize something quietly profound. Nothing was wasted. Every effort, every delay, every lesson, all of it was shaping you for this phase. A phase where patience meets reward, where consistency meets opportunity. And as you stand more firmly in your worth, the current continues to guide you forward, not just toward success, but toward timing that finally makes sense. And that awareness brings us gently into what comes next. And when you look back now, Libra, something begins to make sense. Not all at once, not like a sudden answer, more like a pattern slowly revealing itself. You start to see that the delays weren't empty, the pauses weren't punishment, the waiting wasn't wasted time, it was positioning. There were moments you felt behind, moments when it seemed like others were moving faster, reaching milestones sooner, finding certainty while you were still questioning. But your path was never meant to be rushed. Because Libra, timing matters to you more than speed ever could. What's becoming clear now is this: every detour refined your discernment. Every hesitation taught you what alignment actually feels like. Every ending cleared space for something more honest. And that's why things are clicking into place now. You may feel it in the way your intuition speaks louder than your doubt, in how you no longer second-guess the quiet knowing in your body, in how decisions feel less heavy than they used to. You're not fighting the current anymore, you're moving with it. That's divine timing. Not fireworks, not drama, just a steady sense that you're finally where you're supposed to be. From late 2024 onward, something shifted inside you. You began trusting yourself again, not blindly, but deeply. You stopped asking everyone else for confirmation, stopped outsourcing your inner compass, stopped ignoring the subtle signals that were always there. And as that trust returned, so did your clarity. You see people more clearly now, opportunities more clearly, your own limits and your own capacity. You know when something fits and when it doesn't. And that knowing brings peace, because divine timing doesn't hurry you. It meets you when you're ready to receive without fear, ready to hold joy without waiting for it to disappear, ready to step forward without bracing for collapse. That readiness didn't come overnight. It was earned through patience, through reflection, through choosing growth even when it was uncomfortable. That's why what's unfolding now feels different. It feels stable, grounded, sustainable. Not just for this week, not just for this season, but for the long arc of what you're building next. This is a recalibration phase, Libra, a turning of the wheel that carries you forward into a longer chapter, one where you're less reactive, more intentional, more anchored in who you are. And the beautiful thing about this timing is that it doesn't demand urgency. It invites presence, to notice where you are, to honor how far you've come, to recognize that nothing had to happen sooner than it did. Because if it had, you wouldn't be ready for it now. You're standing at the beginning of a cycle that stretches beyond this moment, beyond this year, one that continues unfolding into 2026 and beyond, with more ease, more alignment, more trust in your own rhythm. And as that realization settles into your chest, you may feel something else stirring quietly, a readiness to move, not out of fear, not out of impatience, but out of choice. Because when timing aligns, action stops feeling forced. And that's where this journey gently carries us next. And when everything finally aligns like this, Libra, there's one last thing your soul wants you to hear. Not loudly, not urgently, but clearly. Waiting won't change what you already know. You've reached that quiet edge where hesitation no longer feels safe, where staying still costs more than moving forward ever could. For a long time, waiting was your way of being kind, patient, understanding. You waited for people to catch up, for situations to improve, for timing to feel perfect. But something inside you has shifted now. You can feel it. That subtle tightening in your chest when you imagine staying the same. That gentle relief when you imagine choosing yourself instead. This isn't recklessness, it's readiness. Because the truth didn't arrive to pressure you, it arrived to free you. You're no longer confused about what feels aligned. You're no longer guessing where your energy belongs. You're no longer trying to convince yourself that less is enough. And that's important. Because Libra, you weren't created to live half a life, half loved, half fulfilled, half secure. You were created for balance that nourishes you, for relationships that meet you, for work that respects your effort, for a life that feels full in more than one direction. Love and money aren't separate here. They reflect the same truth, how you value yourself. When you stop settling emotionally, you stop settling materially. When you choose honesty over comfort, your entire life responds. Not overnight, not magically, but steadily, reliably. You don't need permission to step into more. You've already done the work that qualifies you. You've learned patience, discernment, resilience. Now comes embodiment, choosing the path that reflects who you are today, not who you used to be when you were still figuring things out. This choice doesn't demand perfection. It asks for courage, the courage to say yes to what feels right, and no to what quietly drains you. You may feel fear flicker as you move. That's normal. Fear often shows up when something meaningful begins. But notice this, the fear doesn't stop you anymore. It walks beside you. And that's growth. Because growth doesn't mean the absence of doubt. It means trusting yourself anyway. This is where your story shifts from contemplation to participation. From waiting for change to becoming it. Not in a dramatic way, in a grounded way. One decision, one boundary, one honest step at a time. And as you choose truth, as you choose value, as you choose yourself, you may notice something quietly powerful unfolding, momentum. Love feels more responsive. Money feels more cooperative. Life feels less resistant. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because you did. So take this moment with you. Let it settle. Let it guide you. You don't have to rush, but you don't have to wait anymore either. Trust yourself enough to move. Because when Libra chooses alignment, everything begins to shift together. And this is just the beginning of what comes next. And Libra, before you go, let this moment land. Not in your mind, but in your heart. Because if there's one thing this message was never meant to do, it was never meant to entertain you. It was meant to remind you who you are becoming. You're not behind, you're not late, and you're not asking for too much. You're simply arriving at a version of yourself that no longer negotiates with truth. If something in this message felt personal, if you found yourself nodding quietly or taking a deeper breath without realizing it, that's not coincidence. That's alignment. So take a second, and if this spoke to you, leave a comment below. Even one word is enough. It helps anchor this shift. And it lets other Libras know they're not walking this path alone. If this space feels safe, if this voice feels familiar, go ahead and like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. This channel isn't about predictions. It's about perspective, healing, and learning how to trust yourself again. And Libra. Trusting yourself is the real beginning. As this chapter closes, another one is already forming. Another message, another layer, another moment of clarity waiting to meet you right where you are. So don't rush, don't doubt what you felt here. The journey doesn't end with this video, it continues. And when the next message arrives, you'll be ready to hear it. Until then, stay balanced, stay open, and above all, stay true to yourself.